This morning, we are discussing as well the corruption around World Cup stadia in 2010. eNCA's Thulasizwe Simelane is in Mbombela, just outside the local stadium. That was one of the stadia embroiled in controversy way back in 2010. In fact, Thulasizwe, good morning once again. We know that according to the investigation at the time, some of those construction companies had started plotting as early as 2006 how they were going to collude in order to secure those tenders to build the various World Cup stadia.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. And we're not talking small players here. We're talking companies that do a lot of work for government. We're talking companies such as WBHO. We're talking companies such as Murray and Roberts, Stefanutis Stocks, Robex, Aveng, all of those companies whose names and you see on boards for construction projects around the country. Those are the companies that were implicated in this scandal. They've since incurred a number of penalties and fines, and I think to the tune of some 1.5 billion rand in as far as the competition commission process is concerned, but also 1.5 billion rand over 12 years in as far as an agreement that they reached with government is concerned. So, in a lot of instances when you hear Mpumalanga is a province that has gained infamy in as far as corruption is concerned. A lot of the focus usually is on public sector corruption, but as you rightly say, a lot of it actually takes place in the private sector. And someone who perhaps knows the story better than I do, who certainly knows the story better than I do, is Sizwe Yende, who is the Mpumalanga Bureau Chief for City Press, but also author of the book Eerie Assignment. Thank you so much for joining me, Sizwe. So, you, in journalism terms, you are in the sweet spot in as far as the lead stories that you write. You certainly can never run out of stories to write. But in as far as the life of the nation is concerned, it's unfortunate that a lot of what you write about is corruption. Talk to me about the nexus between public sector corruption and the private sector corruption in this province. Usually the two are linked, aren't they?
Definitely they are. You find that these corporate companies are doing business with government. And what you find there is that the processes that they follow, it's a matter of, everybody will tell you a story that people are getting bought, they get kickbacks, they get all sorts of things to be influenced to award tenders to private companies. It's rife, it happens.
Sizwe, someone watching this, as we have in the backdrop the Mbombela Stadium, one of the stadia that were built for 2010 World Cup, and there was a trial that involved such prominent people as Bobby Motaung, and this is separate, of course, from the collusion in terms of rigging the tenders and who was going to get the tenders to build. This had to do with the tender to design the stadium. But it seems we'll never get justice in as far as that case is concerned. What happened in this case? How is it that, all these extraordinary allegations were put before a court, there was a case put together, but it seems we'll not get justice?
Yeah, definitely. We're not getting justice here. But I think we should pose questions to the police. We should pose questions to the National Prosecuting Authority. You know that people were charged here. Police had a case. The Hawks were telling us that they've covered all the tracks. But all of a sudden, the case goes to court. The prosecutor says, I'm ready to go on with this case. But what happens is that the prosecutor says, I want this case to go to the High Court so that it can be allocated a lot of time, remove it from the regional court because there's a backlog of cases there. But now when that has to happen, it's a date that had to be determined when the case goes to the High Court. Then there are two letters from the National Prosecuting Authority to the regional court here in Mbombela. They are saying, one says, no, the case should remain here. The other says the case should go to the High Court. So the magistrate was confused. He just threw the case out of the court. But now, you will think that the NPA was going to, sort itself out. But when I you do a follow-up, you check with the NPA again, they're telling you that no, there's insufficient evidence, so we abandoned the case in November 2016. So the case is dead.
Absolutely extraordinary, especially if you consider that alongside that case, there's a man who's died here for bringing to light the whole issue of corruption here, Jimmy Mohlala, and that case remains unsolved as well. It must be frustrating for you as well as someone who pursues these issues of corruption in this province.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you can feel for people, you can feel for the families of people like Jimmy Mohlala, because nothing is happening really. And police are just failing. The last time they tried to make an arrest, they arrested the wrong people. I mean, a 60-year-old woman who's really not linked to anything. And their evidence was based on nothing, just on a mere affidavit that has never been investigated further to establish what is being alleged there, whether it's true or not. So it's really frustrating for everybody here in this province.
Final question for you, Sizwe. Mpumalanga has a bad rep, has gained a bad rep for being the province where there's almost impunity in as far as corruption is concerned. In fact, it would seem, certainly from some of the murders we've seen, that it's the people that report corruption that actually end up in a tight spot and basically have their lives threatened in that way. Is it fair? Is it fair? Does Mpumalanga deserve this reputation? Tell us about the difficulties and pitfalls of exposing corruption, reporting on corruption, including your own experiences. I mean, you didn't name your book Eerie Assignment for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. The fact of the matter is that once you try to focus on corruption, then you become a target. You are the wrong guy, you are the bad guy. So I would say it's really difficult to deal with corruption, to try to blow the whistle on corruption. It's for journalists, it's also difficult even for politicians who are blowing the whistle on corruption, because they become targets. They are the bad guys. So I think the mentality here is that you should allow us to eat. It's our turn to eat. So why don't you just shut up so that we can eat?
Extraordinary stories. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out here. That is the City Press bureau chief here in Mpumalanga, Sizwe Yende, who also wrote that book, Eerie Assignment. And as you can hear, expressing the frustrations and difficulties of working the story of exposing corruption that in many instances plays itself out in the public sector procurement processes, but actually has another leg that plays itself out in the private sector, those who stand to benefit from the tenders that government issues out for various projects.
Thank you very much. eNCA's Thulasizwe Simelane outside the Mbombela Stadium in Mpumalanga.